All right, so I'm 48 now, and I'm sorry, I'm driving, guys. I'm hitting the mountain bike part, and so me and my wife moved back to the States from Germany. Everybody's talking about wanting to leave the States and go somewhere else, and all that. And I left the States in 2015, and I moved to Germany. It was easy for me to do that as a tattoo artist. I pretty much just packed a backpack and a guitar, and I took off. I didn't have much to lose here in the States. I was just, just living single life and all that. Just got out of like a 10-year long relationship. I was living with this dude, and we were sharing. I was roommates with this guy who was like, he was on a popular TV show earlier, so he had this big house and he needed a roommate, and so I started living with him and all this, and I realized my parents needed more help than I needed freedom at the point, right? And I think I was in my 30s. So I moved back in with my folks to help them pay down the house. And I was barely home anyway. I was always at the tattoo shop or just out drinking and getting into trouble. I ended up burning some bridges and, just being young and dumb. And it was another really slow period in the economy. What year was it? If I had moved to Germany in 2015, I want to say 2012-ish to 2015, everything didn't really bounce back, at least for me, Like it started off pretty busy, and then it's kind of like what's going on now, right? But I still remember that house was only, I think it was $2,500 a month. And it was a beautiful house, huge pool. I think it had something like 5 bedrooms. And fast forward, I moved to Germany. I'm basically, I'm borderline homeless in Germany, right? Because I moved in to the owner of this tattoo shop, who ended up kind of screwing me over, didn't do my paperwork. I was kind of there under the radar. Ended up starting a band with some dudes. They found me a new place to stay. I left that shop that I was working at. And again, thankfully, I didn't have a family at the time. It was just me, so I was like eating it. But it was okay too. I was just, you're still down for all the experiences. And I was having all the experiences. Was it frustrating? Yes, of course. But I didn't have any responsibilities. Fast forward, I have a kid. My wife's a nurse in Germany. She has a good job, all this shit. The something happened that we all went through, right? I was sitting on my hands for 2 years, couldn't work, just watching my savings get sucked dry. Finally, we decided to move back, and we moved back to Florida. Now, while I was still in Germany, I was looking for car prices. I was like, okay, when we land, I'm hitting the floor running, which I did. I started working. I had a place to work already. When we landed, everything was going great. But what we didn't take into account, for example, I was looking at a CRV for us when we would land, or a 4Runner. And I think 4Runners were still going for like $6,000 while I was looking for them overseas, right? Also, the CRV I was looking at was like at $6,000, and I was like, it was between a CRV and a 4Runner, which I was leaning towards the 4Runner, but it had a lot more miles. Dude, we land and we get to Florida, and everything quadruples in price. I'm being dramatic. For example, the CRV I was looking at went from 5,000 something, right? So 6,000, and it went to, I think we paid after taxes and everything, close to 12 or 13,000 bucks for it, which is great. My wife is still using it, low miles. It was great. We test drove a bunch of them, but I was like, what happened? I thought we were going to be at my mom's. We landed here, and thankfully we moved in with my parents. They're kind of elderly. My brother has Down syndrome, so we're helping. You know, we're helping each other as a family. Like, now that I'm older and I have my own kid, I'm kind of like, this whole moving out of the house thing at 18, and yeah, find who you are, but like, family should support each other and help the next generation come up, you know. Anyway, I digress. Dude, but we get here and everything's out of control. You know, I remember being able to rent an apartment or a room. I mean, I rented half that dude's house, and I was paying like $800 basically for like 2.5 bedrooms, a garage space, and a bathroom. And then we landed, and a 2-bedroom apartment was like almost $3,000. I mean, outrageous. And now we're at the point where we've been here for a while. I have some savings. I mean, it's slow season now, so I go through a little bit of that, but you know, you deduct it on your taxes. But it doesn't look like at 48 years old, do I want to buy a house now? You know, like, it's not only buying the house. Another big example we saw, my parents' house, because the areas come up around it in value, her property taxes went from $3,000 last year to $10,000 this year. Now, we have enough to help her cover that, of course. But now that's digging into our savings, which is fine. But now we start to, like, you know, extrapolate from that. Okay, now if we go get our own place, not only do we have to have the mortgage payment, but is it from 1 year to the next, if they decide that the area we live in goes up in value $100,000, now we got to pay more in the taxes because they say so? Nothing's changed. The roads are still need work. You know, nothing's changed. The lumber that's already in the house is in the house. Some of these houses are, you know, old, but they're just raising the value, and you got to ask yourself, are they just doing it to extrapolate more money from you? So I don't know. When we're on the fence, do we, you know, we could go buy a couple of apartments in Germany. I don't like the winters. I can speak German, but it's a hard language. And how I would have to, you know, get new clientele over again. Her family's aging over there, and what do I do with my parents while they're aging here? It's just, you know, and you don't want to rent either because you feel like renting is just throwing the money away. But what are the options here? And I know a lot of people are in the position where they can't even think about, like, oh, I'm thinking about buying a house. But what are other people's thought processes? What's your thought process on this? I mean, I grew up pretty punk rock, and I saw through the system pretty young, where I've been able to live. I don't overextend myself because I always want the option to, like, I'm out of here. At a given, you know, I just left the other place I was working at because the vibes got weird, and you know, the minute people show me who they are, I'm out of here. I'm not expecting people to change. And again, so once somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And if you stick around knowing that that's who they are, man, then it's all on you. Well, I'm getting to the bike park now. Thanks for listening. And yeah, what are you guys doing?